Good morning, sons and daughters of the Most High. This is Chukwemeka with the Igbo Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, today I want to talk about the other side of going to school that people rarely talk about. The negative impact of going to school on our children. You see, when it comes to issues concerning our children, we parents sometimes do things that may not be optimal. For instance, we are driven by desire to give our children the best. But sometimes we lose track of what the best is. There are parents who will live here in Lagos or will live in a particular town, and their children will be going to a boarding school somewhere else. Or there are parents that will take the children to school, and those children will not come back from school till maybe late in the evening. These things, we may see it as something good for the child, but it's really not. Because what that creates, that it creates a vacuum. The child no longer has someone to look up to, no longer has someone that is a good role model to learn from. As a result of that, most parents grow up completely alienated from their children. And that's why in teenage years, they don't know us and we don't know them. Today we want to talk about it. You see, most of the people I know, when they do this, they are driven by the desire to do the best by their children. They usually say, I want to give my children the best. I don't want my children to grow up the way I grew up. The question I usually ask is, what is so wrong about the way you grew up? What's so wrong about it? Let's say you grew up in poverty, or you were going to farm, going to work with your parents and stuff like that. What's so wrong about that? If you think of it, brothers and sisters, the way you grew up is probably the reason that you grew up with character. Is most likely the reason you were built and became the person you are today. If you now change that model for your children that are growing up, you cannot guarantee that they will grow up with the kind of character you have today. So it's important for us to understand the impact of this on our children, and most especially on our daughters. No, I'm not against education at all. Far from it. Actually, I support educating everybody. I believe if everyone was properly educated and could reason properly, this world would be a much better place. However, we have to understand what education does, especially how we currently educate our children. We have to understand that you don't need to be a nuclear scientist to realize that the level of education today is significantly different from what it used to be 20 years ago. And there is a reason for that. And unfortunately, the way we educate our children today adversely affects both our sons and our daughters, but more importantly, it affects our women in a very, very significant way. And that's what I want to talk about today. You see, how do humans learn? We humans, human beings created by the Most High, we learn by observing. We don't learn by listening. You can talk to your child from now till next week and they can regurgitate what you told them, but they don't learn from that. They learn from observing, from watching. The practical aspect of learning is more significant than the theoretical aspect of learning. That's one thing you should keep in mind. In those days, brothers and sisters, in those days, our women, Our daughters, they learn from watching their mother manage the home. When they observe their mothers manage the home, they observe the dynamics between their mother and their father, how the mother takes care of the father even when he's having some kind of mood swing. They observe all these things. They watch their aunties and their elder sisters and how they deal with boys, how they handle teenage years. That's how they learn. That's how girls learn. Today, unfortunately, because of education, our system, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but our daughters have to get up and go to school and spend literally the entire day in school. So while they are away from their parents, they are not observing, they're not learning from their mothers. So we take our daughters to school where we think they're going to learn something. Of course, they're going to learn ABCD, they're going to learn arithmetic, they're going to learn whatever they learn in schools nowadays. But they are not observing the people they should be observing. They're not watching their mothers, they're not watching their aunties, they're not. And remember, people learn from observation, not from theory. But when we take our daughters away from home, they don't have any role model to learn from. So that creates a vacuum. That creates a significant vacuum. Why? Because now our daughters have no one to learn from. They don't even watch their mothers. They have no idea how their mothers will navigate certain situations. They don't learn from their aunties and their big sisters on how to deal with boys at their age. The vacuum is created, and so they learn from television. They learn from their friends, and only God knows the moral compass of those friends. For instance, brothers and sisters, today our children, our daughters are infected with what people call the princess mentality. Where did that come from? It stems from how we educate our daughters. Like I said, our daughters no longer have their role model in their mothers and their big sisters, their aunties to learn from. So they learn from television. Every girl wants to grow up to be a princess, even though there is no such thing naturally as a princess. There's no natural title as a princess. But every girl wants to grow up to be a princess, and that is where the problem is. You see, these girls, women, biologically are engineered to be mothers, builders, and developers. That's what women biologically were created to be. So even if a child wants to be a princess when she's 8 or 9, later on in life she will want to be a mother because that's the biological process. That's what she wants. But unfortunately, we allow our children, our daughters, to have the mentality of a princess, this princess syndrome, which makes them as attention seekers, makes them very morally impure and what they call slutty and the rest of them, which is really, really terrible. That is what our daughters are doing now. They want to be a princess. Even though in reality it doesn't really end well for princesses. Look at Princess Diana. There's no such thing as princess. Nature did not create them to be princesses, but to be mothers, to be controllers, to be protectors of the family, of the society. That's the way the Most High created our women to be. But we, because of education, our daughters no longer have a moral compass to learn from. They no longer have those role models they can watch and observe. They no longer have that. They go to school from morning till night. Some people keep their children in school till late at night when they go and pick them up. And so these children grow up without really learning anything, observing the people that can teach them the right morals. This is detrimental to our girls. Because in that case now, all they have to learn from is Miley Cyrus. And I'm not kidding. If you go on Facebook, you look at, I was looking at my younger cousins' pictures on Facebook, and it was just ridiculous. She and her friends will be taking pictures and they'll be bringing out their tongue. This is what Miley Cyrus does. You see young girls today, they will be bringing out their tongue, which is a disgusting thing. But this is what they have learned. They have learned these things from television. And why did they learn this? They learned this because they had no role models to learn from. Brothers and sisters, I'm not saying education is bad. Oh, far from it. Education is not bad. But we must understand the implication of how we educate our children, especially our daughters. I know parents that let their daughters, 6, 7-year, 8-year-old daughters, dress in sexually provocative outfits. I know parents that put on mini skirts. In fact, there's one girl I saw that came with a mother to the bank the other day, and the mini skirt she was wearing, I was embarrassed on her behalf. It was disgusting, to be honest. And this girl was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11. I don't know why a mother will allow the daughter dress like that. But these are things you see on cartoons. The cartoon characters, they dress that way. And so the girl grew up not knowing any better. So this girl now, most of our daughters, not only this girl, most of our daughters have been trained to see themselves the way people see them, the way boys see them. And so they do everything. It's naturally a human process. They do everything to attract attention from the opposite sex, especially boys. This is wrong, brothers and sisters. This is terrible. That is why, brothers and sisters, that is why our daughters at a very infant age today, they try to change their bodies to look attractive to the opposite sex. Not what they have to offer, not their personalities, but their physical appearance. I mean, you look at teenagers getting plastic surgery in Western countries. In here in Africa, you see teenagers bleaching their skin just to look attractive, because we have educated our daughters that their looks is the superior thing to them, and that their look is what makes them attractive. It's what makes them sassy, and we have allowed them to be educated by these degenerates on television, and that is why they grow up being so confused, not knowing how to attract a good person in their life except from their physical appearance. And even this affects our boys too, because most of our boys don't even know how to identify a good woman, and all they look about is, oh, this person is hot, it's very sexy, which is a terrible thing. So we because of education and the way we handle education, by giving up our traditional way of life, we have entered into a very stupid cycle of superficialness, where we don't look at the individual, the character. Instead, we don't build character in our children. Instead, we let them learn it from these demons on television. I know a young girl, actually, I know this young girl. She spent her teenage years, she's light skinned in a way. She spent her teenage years bleaching her skin. Okay, she spent her university years bleaching her skin, trying to look lighter. But later on in life, when she wanted to get married, the guy she likes, she would have loved to get married. So that, look, I don't really find fair skin attractive. It was a very big irony for her when she was explaining this to me. The guy is not really attracted to fair skin, and she was not that fair, but she has bleached herself. The guy ended up marrying someone else, and she ended up marrying someone else. But she was just telling me this. But that is the unfortunate part of this whole thing. We've educated our daughters to look at themselves not based on their personality, but based on how people see them, and that is wrong. That is why we have to reconsider the way we educate our daughters. We have to understand that while our daughters go to school, and most of them are very good in school, they really don't learn a lot of what they need to learn in society in school. And so you shouldn't keep your daughter in school forever. If you're a mother and you're going to work, or let's say you're selling something or you're doing something, make it a point of duty to bring your daughter back home early from school. Let her go with you to wherever you're going. That's how she learns to be a woman. That's how she learns to navigate through life. You never know where your daughter is going to end up. She may end up marrying a wonderful man, or she may end up marrying a drunkard, but she must learn to put the family together. Unfortunately, today, the education we afford our daughters cannot put them through for most of our daughters. I mean, you see how most of our daughters dress, and you begin to feel sorry for our future generation. And that's because we've dropped the ball. We're no longer putting role models, the right role models in front of our daughters to learn from. Most of our daughters learn the way they talk from Kim Kardashian. The way they talk, the way they speak to each other, they learn it from Kim Kardashian. That's because they have no role model to learn from. Most people, like I said, learn how to dress and behave from Miley Cyrus. These people are degenerates. They are not the type of role model that anybody should even look at. Unfortunately, they are the only option most of our daughters have today. Brothers and sisters, education is a good thing, but you don't have to be in school 24/7 to be educated. Most of the girls I know that are extremely intelligent, it's not because they didn't get that from school, but because of their upbringing. They forged character out of them. The character was developed based on their parents laying down the rule and teaching them how to follow their rule. Their mothers going to the market, going to the farm with their daughters and teaching them how to navigate through life. That's how character is forged. Today, unfortunately, most mothers don't even know this thing, let alone teaching their daughters how to navigate through this. And you wonder, how are these people going to go through life? What will the future generation look like? Most times I've seen parents who complain that teenagers are tough to handle, that they are very tough to handle, especially teenage daughters. Of course they are tough to handle because they didn't know you. No kidding, these kids are tough to handle because they didn't grow up with you. They don't know you. You were not their role model when they were growing up. So they literally spend less than 30 minutes with you every day. They don't know who you are. That's why they are tough to handle. Parents don't make out time to spend time with their children. Instead, they're so involved looking for money or looking for this and that. And so maybe they're wondering why their children are tough to handle. And so you allow your children to coast through life in a dream world, thinking that everything is like the Kardashians. But that's not how life works. You know that's not how life works. Most of us begin to assume that, okay, the child will grow up to know. No, the child will not grow up to know because that's not what his thoughts look like. We have to rethink the way we educate our daughters. They don't have to stay in school for 24/7 for them to learn anything. We have to rethink that. We have to make out time to take our daughters and take them around whatever they're doing. Let them watch us navigate through life. There are most women that will stay at home, watch television all day, and when their daughters come back from school, they won't even interact with them. They won't even teach them how to cook in the kitchen. There are so many girls that are married today that don't even know how to cook. That's because they didn't learn that when they were supposed to learn it. When they were supposed to learn how to cook and how to take care of the home, they were instead watching cartoon or watching Miley Cyrus or watching Disney or one of those nonsense. This is war against the women. It is war because it was specifically designed for that. Don't let school be your babysitter. Create time for your children. Bring them home and let them observe you go through life. That is how they learn. Calculus is wonderful. It's good for them to learn calculus. It's good for them to learn whatever it is they are teaching in school. But it's much better for them to observe you and learn from you. May the Most High bless you. Salam.